Hey everyone, how's it going? Kevin here with Push to Talk. Now, I wanted to sit down and record a video tonight, kind of related to the video that I posted the other night, where I laid out the 5 key factors that I think make up a great pro wrestler. And I wanted to apply those 5 things to my top 5 favorite wrestlers in AEW. Now, originally I was going to do this all in one video, but as I started reading my notes and started writing my notes, I realized that if I did that, 5 wrestlers in one video, I would be here for like 2 or 3 hours just blabbing at the camera, and I really don't have time for that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply these 5 things to 5 AEW wrestlers across 5 separate videos, kind of like the 10 thing, but with 5. So what we're going to do here tonight is first lay out what those 5 things are again, and then we're going to just dive into it and start applying these 5 things to the wrestler that I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm also going to share with you the other 4 wrestlers that I'm going to talk about in future videos, but based off of my t-shirt, you can probably guess who we're going to review tonight. So let's get into this. And before we start getting to the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to make sure that you all realize that this isn't in any particular order. I like all of these wrestlers equally. I just thought I would start with a certain someone tonight because I was listening to a certain genre of music all day today, and I was feeling really inspired to do a video about this particular wrestler. So why not apply my logic to this guy and explain to you all why I think he's one of the best in the world, really. So taking a look back at what we talked about last time is that I think there are 5 key things that make up a great professional wrestler. Those 5 things being in-ring ability, psychology and logic, audience connection, storytelling and character, and lastly 5 look. Again, I tried to do the thing when I count with my fingers this time, and I wasn't able to do it, just like the last video. I'm sorry, I'm terribly coordinated. Taking those 5 things tonight, we are going to apply this to none other than Malakai Black. Malakai just recently debuted in AEW a couple of months ago, hopping ship from WWE. Prior to that, he was a big name on the indies under the name Tommy End, where he competed in promotions like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Now, my big exposure to Malakai Black at first was really NXT. I hadn't really seen much of him up until that point. And as soon as I saw this guy in NXT, I immediately was drawn to him because I really got where he was coming from as a character and as a person. And as a metalhead, that's something I could really relate to. So let's break it down, right? Let's first take a look at the number 1 thing that I think makes a great professional wrestler, and that is in-ring ability. So Malakai's offense is made up primarily of strikes, right? He's a striker. You look a lot of his promo videos and stuff, and he's kind of doing the airboxing and striking, and that's just who he is. I know he's trained in various kickboxing techniques and things like that. I think Muay Thai is one of them. Don't quote me on that. I don't know real sports. But obviously that plays into his style in the pro wrestling ring. Now, he also does a lot more than just strikes, right? Because based off of the video that I recorded last time, if he was only doing strikes, that's not a very versatile moveset, and therefore wouldn't make a great in-ring competitor or great in-ring ability. So in addition to those strikes, he also does a lot of MMA style submissions, and he does some really great slams, and he has a lot of speed to him too. We don't see him go airborne super often, but he is very fast and light on his feet. Now, I'm gonna kind of say that I'm a little biased when it comes towards the striking style of wrestling, because that is my favorite style of wrestling. What I think is really awesome about striking is that when you're a good striker and you make those moves look really real, because a lot of the times with these strikers, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure what they're doing is real to a degree. It makes it super believable and really easy to buy into and really exciting, right? So he takes that, which I'm biased, that's my favorite thing in wrestling is strikes. He mixes it in with awesome MMA style submissions, as well as using some great slams and speed. So this guy kind of has it all, right? I mean, he also has a really fantastic finisher, that kind of like roundhouse kick that he does, which he called in NXT the Black Mass. Now, I'm not sure if that's what he's calling it in AEW or not. I haven't really been paying attention that much, honestly. But still, it's the same finisher, and it looks really, really good when he nails it. I mean, just remember when he debuted and he nailed it, and he kicked the microphone out of Arn's hand, and it kind of went spinning. It was really, really awesome. That finisher has a really, really great visual to it. And speaking of his in-ring style, like I said, my first exposure to Malakai Black was in NXT, and during that time in NXT, we saw him put on some absolute bangers during takeover events. Some of the ones that really, really stand out to me is the crazy striking match that he had with Kenta. I think he was called Hideo Itami when he was in WWE, but we know Kenta now. He also put on a really bruising match with Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver Phoenix, which I was actually in the crowd for. I was sitting in the fourth row, so if you squint real hard and look at the back, you can see me in the back of that one. My claim to fame here. But that was a really, really great match. He also had one of the greatest tag matches we've ever seen in NXT when he teamed up with Ricochet to take on the War Raiders. So it shows a lot of versatility there. But I think where we see the most versatility in his in-ring style is the match that he had with the Velveteen Dream at TakeOver War Games 2 in Los Angeles, which I was actually in attendance for that one as well. This move set in this match, between both of these guys, one's super, super huge, but they did a really great job of storytelling within that match, playing around some of the limitations that the Velveteen Dream had at that time. So, to that point, in each one of these matches, you can go back and watch all of them, and you can see how diverse of a moveset this guy really has, and how good he is at selling, and how good he is at, helping his opponent also look really, really good in the matches. Now, point number 2 that we have to talk about is psychology and logic, and I think this is the hardest point to talk about a wrestler in general, because in my opinion, it usually comes down to the individual match where we see them do psychology and logic, but we can kind of look at how consistent Malakai Black is with his psychology and logic. In the matches we've seen so far in AEW with his feud against Cody Rhodes, Malakai has shown some really, really great psychology. And one of the things that stands out to me, which also plays into the story, is not only how he will target specific body parts, but he also gets into the head of his competitor and kind of manipulates them into doing, not so great things, either to slip up or full on trying to get him to turn heel or turn evil. So the next point we have to talk about with Malakai Black here is my third item that I use to judge pro wrestler is audience connection. Debatably, the most important, maybe right after in-ring ability. And with Malakai, this is one of my favorite things about him. And I'll get into a little bit because it's not really the big reactions that he gets. He does get some really good reactions, but I think it's the way his character also plays into the audience reaction what makes him so great. Obviously, Malakai is a heel, right? But he's just so darn cool that you can't help but like him, right? He's pretty much a badass. He is dark and manipulative, and the audience, or what he refers to as his houses of black, really, really feeds into that, right? They kind of know that they're being manipulated by this guy being so cool and dark and mysterious, but we still love it because it's Malakai, and he's really, really rad. He just has such a great presence, also, that just by proxy, he pretty much turned Cody heel, right? I mean, we saw in those last couple of episodes of Dynamite, both in his debut and in both the matches that he had with Cody, everyone's firmly behind Malakai here, right? I mean, he's not a good guy, he's not a babyface, but he's so cool that we all just love him, right? And that's kind of what a metal-like character should be at the end of the day. So for me, speaking of which, on a personal level when it comes to Malakai Black, and I think a lot of my fellow metalheads can agree with this, is that, we haven't really seen a wrestler other than maybe Warhorse, which is really blatant in his, ties with metal, but we've never really seen anyone like an extreme metal type character before. I remember once watching like a shoot interview with Malakai Black when he was first in NXT, and the interviewer asked him like, "Hey, you're kind of like the heavy metal of wrestling, aren't you?" And Malakai stopped him right there, and he said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm the black metal of professional wrestling, right? And if you're a metal fan like me, you know that there's a pretty big difference between something like black metal and something just like heavy metal." So as me being a huge fan of extreme metal, right? I mean, the first time I heard extreme metal was playing Vice City on the PS2, and was the first time I had ever heard Slayer and the Slayer's Raining Blood. And as soon as I did, I was just immediately hooked, right? And from there, I went straight into the deep end by seeking out bands like Gogoroth, Mayhem, and Dark Funeral. Those black metal bands started to get me to look into more of the death metal side of things, which I'm more of a fan of now. Bands like Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and Death. And Malakai, my personal reason why I feel connected to him as a member of the audience is that this dude is just a proud metalhead. You know it, right? I mean, you see pictures of him on Instagram, and he's always wearing like straight black metal shirts, like straight up like Dark Funeral. I mean, listen to his entrance music, right? Ogentrust by Amon-Ra, I think that's how you pronounce that. Oh, it's a straight up like doom kind of black metal sound. It has the harsh vocals. It's really, really dark. I mean, it's extreme metal. He even looks, acts, and sounds like he would be in a black metal band. Like straight up, he just has that presence about him, like those kind of like second wave black metal guys did. But this isn't a good way. So that's why me personally, why I'm drawn to Malakai so much is because he has that connection with folks who are super into metal like me. And I think if I showed any metalhead Malakai Black, even if they weren't a wrestling fan, he would be their favorite wrestler. No doubt about it. So let's get into the fourth point, which is storytelling and character. So speaking of turning Cody heel just by proxy, the entire storyline with Malakai and the Nightmare family, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant if you ask me. And it both plays into the overall story as well as Malakai as a character, and what he does in these storylines on TV come across in the matches, which I'll get to. So in all of these matches versus the Nightmare family, he's always urging the babyface to go on and basically turn heel, right? He's trying to get them to like turn to the dark side, I guess you could say, but outside of the context of Star Wars. He's always trying to get them to hit Malakai with like a foreign object, right? He'll hand them a chair and turn his back to them and say, "Hey, come on, do it. Be evil." We're now even starting to see his influence on Cody through these manipulative tactics. And this is likely going to result in a Cody heel turn, right? I think the writing's on the wall here. Malakai's mind games with Cody are sort of turning him to that darker side in a way, right? We saw this when he had the match with Malakai, when he shoved the ref, and some of the heelish stuff Cody was doing in that match with Malakai. We're now even seeing a rift between Cody and Arn, which I think is going to inevitably end up with Cody turning on Arn, which I think was Malakai's grand plan, grand scheme all along as the manipulative character that he is. So this story with the Nightmare family, it plays into Malakai's character so well. He seems like the sort of character who would be manipulative, right? He's very intelligent, though, and he's kind of bending people to his will without them really realizing it. And I think that's a really, really cool character, especially in pro wrestling, right? We haven't really seen anything through the context of like, the darker kind of devilly kind of way, manipulating people like this to bend them to their will, right? He's almost like a Hannibal Lecter in a way, where he's very, very intelligent, and he's just kind of preying on the psychology of these other wrestlers. And in doing so, he's kind of convincing these other wrestlers to turn heel and turn bad, or at least that's what he's trying to do. You can also tell that like when he's in the ring and on the mic, he takes on an almost Anton LaVey type demeanor when he's talking to the audience and refers to them as his House of Black, which I think is a nod to the Church of Satan from the 1960s, I would assume. Just based off of the fact that, there was the actual church in San Francisco at the time, which was a house painted completely black. So I think there's a nod there. So there's a lot of these cool, interesting subtleties to Malakai's character that I, for one, pick up on because I'm a super, super metalhead. To me, they're super obvious. But it really goes into building into how great of a character he is and how great of a storyteller he is. So the last thing that we can apply to Malakai Black, which I think is the most obvious thing, is his look. And there's really no denying it. Malakai Black has the best look in AEW. I think there's no question. He's the coolest looking guy on that roster. And I think he might actually be the coolest looking wrestler in the world. And his look and presentation, it goes beyond so much, far beyond him just being a new Undertaker, right? I mean, he's really like the modern Undertaker. He's like the metal fans version of the Undertaker. He is mysterious, he's brooding, and his entrance sets just an absolutely incredible tone. When he comes to the ring, speaking of his entrance, he's wearing that kind of like skull mask with the antlers on it and the beads in it. It looks like something you would see out of a Behemoth video. His entrance is slow and it's very thought-provoking and mysterious, and the music fits it absolutely perfectly. I like where he like stops on the ring post after the lights go out, and then there's just one spotlight shined on him and he's just kind of posing, being really, really cool. And then the lights go out again, and then he's in the middle of the ring, and that spotlight hits him again, and he's sitting there cross-legged. It's very dark and kind of like, dare I say, satanic in a lot of ways. He's cool, man. There's just no beating around it. Malakai is really, really awesome. Just thinking about it and thinking about his entrance, I love this guy. And when you take all of those things together, his mask with the horns and the bead in it, and the entrance and the really kind of dark presentation of it, it makes me think so, and I mentioned him previously, but it makes me think so much of the Polish metal but death metal band Behemoth. Now, Behemoth is a very theatrical metal band, right? I've seen them play live a couple of times, and their shows, while the music is obviously incredibly well played and fantastic, their shows are really about the theater. And Malakai's aesthetic really is very, very similar to what we would see with like Nurgle of Behemoth. So I think that's an interesting thing that I just kind of want to point out. It's just so dark and epic and cool. So once we're past just the ring entrance, he takes off that ring attire and the dude is just covered in tattoos, like head to toe. You can't even see anything but tattoos on this guy, right? And obviously that's something that's really engraved with that metal culture. So I think it fits his character so well. You also see that the dude's wearing corpse paint, like straight up. For those who don't know what corpse paint is, it's kind of that black and white kind of evil makeup that you'll see guys in black metal bands wearing pretty much all of the time. It's very like synonymous with black metal specifically. And the way Malakai does it, it just kind of takes up that bottom portion of his face and makes it so he gets that point across that it's like, yeah, this is corpse paint, but you can also see the rest of his face so you know what he looks like. And I think that's a really interesting and cool decision. So we covered the 5 things with Malakai, right? He's awesome in the ring. He has a really diverse moveset, and he's a striker, so in Kevin's book, he's automatically awesome. He has great psychology and logic in his matches. Everything he does makes sense. There's no wasted movements. He builds in a match and builds to a great climax. He is able to interject his character into the psychology of the match by kind of getting into his opponent's head. He has great audience connection, especially for people like me who are big fans of extreme metal. But even then, I mean, he's just so damn cool that he's turned Cody heel just by proxy. He's got great storytelling and character. I mean, we talked about the parallels between him and, like, you know, an Anton LaVey-esque type guy or an Aleister Crowley or something like that. I mean, he looks and acts and sounds like he would be in a black metal band. And he's just like a manipulative genius in a lot of ways. He's almost like Hannibal Lecter as well. And of course, lastly, what we just talked about, which is the look. He looks like he belongs in a black metal band. He's in great shape. He's covered in the tattoos. He's got the awesome face paint. This guy's the whole package, if you ask me. I really, truly think that Malakai is easily within the top 5 wrestlers in AEW, especially when you apply my criteria to him. And I think he might actually honestly be one of the best 5 wrestlers in the world right now. Especially from the 2 points where he really shines, which is storytelling and character, look, and hell, let's throw in audience connection as they're in there as well. Those are his top 3 things that he does so well, and he's got the in-ring ability down, and he's got this psychology and logic down as well. But it's really those 3 where this guy shines. And I love him. I can't wait to see him in higher profile feuds. I can't wait to see where he goes next after the Nightmare Family. I only want him to do good. I'm going to buy more of his shirts because they look like metal shirts, and I think that is the sickest thing you can buy right now off the shelf in the digital form. And he's just awesome. I could sit here all night and talk about how great Malakai is, but I think, arguing with the 5 points, the 5 criteria that I laid out, Malakai, based off of those 5 things, he's one of the best wrestlers in AEW. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please follow me on Instagram. I am Push2Talk1. Check out my other videos. I think a good one to check out if you haven't seen it yet is where I go into detail on these 5 points of criteria that make a great wrestler in my previous video. That's my favorite video I've done so far, and I'm pretty proud of that one, so I'd be really stoked if you all took the time to go check that thing out. And don't forget to check out my next video, which I'll probably upload later this week, maybe tomorrow if I'm feeling like it. Wednesday's reserved for Dynamite, so you know what that means. That's Dynamite recap, and I'll give you a hint. In the next video, I'm either going to talk about Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, Adam Cole, or Bryan Danielson, because those are the other 4 guys that I think are the best in AEW. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.